Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonker. Let's continue our discussion of NCERT Science series. You all know on StudyIQ we are running NCERT discussion of science texts. Already the discussion for 6th and 7th is there on StudyIQ IAS channel. You can see these video lectures on our channel StudyIQ IAS. And I would urge you to watch these previous lectures if you have not seen, because you can come on par with our discussion, because we have already reached class 8. Chapter by chapter discussion is going on. If you want to watch these videos, I'll be putting a playlist of this entire science series on my social media handle at the rate Rahul Sai 222. It will be posted on Instagram as well as Telegram. The entire playlist would be available there, where you can watch 6th standard, 7th standard, also the 8th standard discussion that we are having right now. We are already done with chapter 1, crop production, chapter 2, microorganisms, chapter 3, synthetic fibers, and chapter 4. In the last class, we discussed about metals and non-metals. We spoke about the physical and chemical features of metals, non-metals. We also spoke about metalloids. I hope you remember. Today, we are going to talk about natural resources. And in that, we are going to talk about exhaustible natural resources, that are coal and petroleum. So we'll talk about coal, petroleum, and natural gas. So without any delay, let us begin our discussion. But before that, a very important notice for all of you, because today is the last day. 13th May, our course is beginning. Only the orientation class will be done. But you still have an opportunity to get yourself admitted to this particular program. Why you should get enrolled for this? Because this is the most comprehensive program for UPSC civil services preparation. We will be hand-holding you through prelims, through mains, through interview. If you clear prelims 2024, then the entire mains program, its expenditure would be given by StudyIQ. Your entire mains residential program would be funded by StudyIQ. This entire program, where you have one-to-one mentorship, group mentorship, current affairs program, everything, the whole shebang, it comes for around 30K. And if you want this discounted price, do use my code Rahul Life. All right, I'll see you in the class. Right, let's start off with today's discussion. We'll talk about resources. Now, whenever we talk about natural resources, we have two different kinds of natural resources. One natural resource which never ends, or which is perpetual. We all know that life runs because of sunlight. Now, sunlight is one of the examples of a natural resource which is perpetual. At least till our lifetime, it will be there. It will be there for another many billion years for sure. But there is another kind of natural resource which is exhaustible. That means which is going to end. So natural resources can be classified as resources which we take from nature. Say, for instance, air, water, forest, wildlife, or we have other sources like coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. These all come under the domain of natural resources. But again, there is a segregation which has been made. Natural resources can be classified into two categories. First is inexhaustible natural resource. That means I can colloquially name it to renewable also. There is no need to get confused here. It can also be called renewable natural resource. Examples being, I'd say sunlight, air, right? Even water to a large extent, yes, it is a renewable source. But again, the water exploitation, we spoke about the chapter on water, and I told you the water availability is immense on Mother Earth, right? But the usable amount of water, that is fresh water availability, is very little. That's why we told about conservation or preservation of fresh water. So water can also put into renewable. Water is also renewable. So we have sunlight, air, etc. as inexhaustible, which do not end, which are rather perpetual. But there are many other natural resources which are exhaustible, or we call them basically non-renewable, right? Non-renewable resources. And many of them are the fossil fuels that we use. We use coal, petroleum, petrol, diesel, gasoline, etc. You can also put examples as forest, wildlife, minerals. Please remember this: forest, wildlife, mineral. These also come under exhaustible natural resources, because these are the simple questions which students or aspirants, they commit mistakes. If I give you an example of, see, select the following, or an MCQ has been created, which of the below are examples of inexhaustible natural resource. I give you example of sunlight, air, water, and then I write forest, wildlife, minerals. Then many people would think forest, wildlife are perpetual, then I'll just eliminate them. No, forest, wildlife, minerals, coal, petroleum, natural gas, all these are non-exhaustible. That means they're non-renewable. They take a lot of time for their regeneration. That's the basic understanding. And our discussion here would be primarily focused on fossil fuels. What are these fossil fuels? Fossil fuels are fuels that are basically obtained from plants and animal remains which have been buried for millions of years. And what are the important kinds of fossil fuels we use? We use petroleum. When I use petroleum, this is not petrol per se. If I can change the name of petroleum to say probably crude oil. Okay, you will get a better understanding. Petroleum or crude oil. The composition for all the three remains the same. I want you to focus here. Carbon is present in both, hydrogen is present in both, nitrogen, sulfur, everything is present in all. But minerals are absent in natural gas. Of course, minerals will not be present, but minerals would be present here in both these. That means the composition of natural petroleum coal, it's same: carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, oxygen, etc. Why? Because they all come from similar kind of sources. They all come from previous life. Previous life meaning plants and animals which were buried deep down under the earth crust, and they have been continuously pressurized, so they have transformed into coal, petroleum, natural gas, which we use today as fuels. All right, so let's first talk about coal, black gold, right? The discovery of coal and the usage of coal, I would say it primarily brought industrial revolution. Why? Because coal, when we discovered or invented steam engine, right? Steam engine, coal was being used, and wherever there were coal industries, we find industrial belts around that. I can give many examples from Britain. I can give examples of the Ruhr Valley from Germany. Even in India, the coal availability became one of the determinants of industrial location in that particular country, right? So coal is a very important source of energy. Coal is used basically to cook food. Yes, initially to cook food, coal, charcoal, yes. Later on, during the industrial revolution, coal was being used for industrial purposes, for transportation, for steam engine. Then we started to produce electricity. Today, almost 55 to 60% of India's electricity that comes, the electricity that's coming here, most likely it is coming from a coal-based power plant. Coal-based power plant firing the boilers producing steam running the turbines or the generators, then electricity is produced. And coal is also used in many industries, especially I can say industries that need enormous amount of energy, steel industries, other industries, right? They all use coal. Now the question is, sir, how is this coal formed? Can I get coal anywhere? See, coal formation or the story of coal is very, very interesting. Around 300 million years ago, the dense forest, I want you to focus here, the dense forests in the low-lying wetland areas, they submerged into the crust. So what happened was, these giant plants, giant forests, they submerged, and over millions of years they were buried under water and dirt. And this burial, it put them under pressure. Constantly they were under heat and pressure, and ultimately these dead plants, they turned into coal. Now this entire process is actually called as carbonization, where the dead vegetation, please remember I am highlighting here, whenever I say coal, it comes from the dead plant waste buried under the crust, over which there is a lot of heat and pressure, and these dead plants and animals, they are turned into coal. And this coal we use today. That is why specifically coal can be formed. It takes millions of years to form, and when we say coal is being formed, it goes through different areas of formation, or different phases of formation, not areas per se, but different phases of formation. Coal can be found which may be of different categories. First of all, peat. Now peat, it cannot be considered technically as coal, but these are partially decayed plants. See, initially when the forests were dead, or the forest was buried in the crust, after a few years you can find peat. Wherever you find peat, you will see that these peat, they comprise of these marshy lands, right? Marshy lands. And in this peat, there is a lot of moisture content. The energy requirement or the calorific value would be low, water content would be very high. Slowly and steadily, peat transforms into lignite, which is brown coal. Now this has lower calorific value, it has low sulfur also, but but this is also not very useful in many industries, although we extract lignite also from many areas in India. The next phase, when more and more heat and more pressure is applied on these dead decaying matter, when I say applied, it takes millions of years of this pressure and heat, then it turns into bituminous coal, which is also called soft coal. And in India, we say that almost 98% of coal that we find is bituminous itself. Now, this is extensively used as fuel because it has higher calorific value, it has low content of moisture, it has content of sulfur, yes, high content of sulfur as well, but the topmost quality of coal is anthracite. It is also called hard coal, and this is highly desirable. And very sadly, we do not find large amount of reserves of anthracite coal in India. What we find in India is bituminous coal, right? So as I told you, formation of coal, it takes millions of years and it moves through this particular phase or this particular transition. And in India, when we talk about coal availability, we all know there are some coal centers in India. It's very important, although this is not given in NCERT, but I want you to know that coal industry is mainly, or not coal industry per se, coal mining is predominant in the Chota Nagpur Plateau region. We also find coal in Assam. We have found out some amount of anthracite coal in Jammu and Kashmir here. Now, this is high quality anthracite coal again. But whatever other coals that we find, these are basically Gondwana coal fields in India. In India, Gondwana coal fields, almost 98%. When I say Gondwana coal fields, it has gone through a transformation of about 250 million years. Tertiary coal is little less than that, and lignite coal fields are relatively newer coal fields. When I say newer coal fields, that would also be amounting to few million years. All right. So we find maximum amount of Gondwana coal fields in the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Some are found here in Gujarat also. And tertiary coal fields are predominantly available in the peninsular region somewhere here. And we have some lignite coal fields. You have navally lignite coal field here in Tamil Nadu also. So you find different kinds of coals in India. But do remember, India lacks this high quality coal, which is one of the problems. That's why, despite having so much of reserve in India, we import large amount of coal. And we also import one very important ingredient. That is the domain of our discussion today, coal products. See, under the coal products, one of the ingredients that we import is coke, right? Coking coke. What is this coke? Now remember, coke is basically 98% carbon. 98% carbon. You can see the pictures here. Coal looks a little shiny because it has got impurities, it has got moisture, etc. But once the moisture is removed, coke looks like a cake. I wouldn't say spongy cake, but it looks more like a porous cake. You can see the pores here in this particular picture. So what is coke? Coke is carbonaceous residue which is derived after burning the volatile constituents. We simply bake this particular coal in oven and we get coke. And this coke is extremely useful for us in many industries, especially in steel industries. In steel industries, coke is used to form slag. Now, the slag is impurity which can be removed during the production of steel. That's why coke is needed. And we import large amount of coke from other countries. Apart from this coke product, we also produce coal tar. Now, coal tar you must have seen. Coal tar looks something like this. In fact, many a time this bituminous coal tar is used for roads. You must have seen, whenever we say tar roads, it is this, right? You must have seen small concrete structures mixed with this coal, and then it is simply pushed. It is simply pushed by a huge heavy roller. Your road is ready. But remember, coal tar is actually a mixture of many compounds. It is a mixture of more than 200 carbon compounds. It is dark in color. It smells. The smell is a little unpleasant. You must have seen it. Whenever road work is going on, you must have smelled the coal tar for sure. But coal tar is used for manufacturing of many day-to-day products in our day-to-day products, like synthetic dyes, like drugs, perfumes, right? Even for plastics, for photographic materials, even the naphthalene balls that we have, the naphthalene balls that you keep in your clothes or keep near your clothes so that they smell nice, right? They are effervescent, they are volatile. If you keep them in air, they just go off, right? They just they just turn into gas, you know that. So those naphthalene balls are also obtained from coal tar. Please remember these facts. Now, apart from this, we can also get coal gas. Now, these days, coal gas or coal gasification plants are also found where you can get these coal gas. Okay. Now, coal gas is mainly a mixture of hydrogen, predominantly methane, because this is a very important fuel for us. Whenever I say methane, natural gas has large amount of methane. So from coal, we can get this methane, which is an excellent fuel, which is a very excellent fuel. I would say it's a fuel which leaves no residue. That's why I wouldn't call it completely clean fuel, but much better than coal itself, right? So coal gas is also produced through a process. So whenever we heat up the coal, right, we can get coal tar, we can get coke, and then eventually when we pass these through chemicals and other towers and through water, we get coal gas in the end. Coal gas is also one of the excellent fuels. So it's not just coal that we use, and coal is used extensively. Please do not have this narrow-mindedness that coal is only used for electricity production. Yes, predominantly used for electricity production, but coal is used in many other industries. Coal is also used to produce coke, coal is also used to produce coal tar, coal is also used to produce coal gas, right? So coal is a very useful source of energy, and remember, it's exhaustible, it's not renewable. Now this is about coal, and remember, coal, when I say, I want you to imprint this in your mind, just note plant. Now next is petroleum. Now petroleum, I can also write the term crude oil here, but petroleum is a term used in NCERT. Petroleum means Petra. Petra basically means a rock. Have you heard of a city called Petra? Petra is in Jordan. Very important monuments are there, okay? Important caves and stone architecture is there. Petra, it's a city name also. Petra means stone. Petra is actually stone city also. Petra means stone. Lium means oil. So when you find oil in the rock, it's called petroleum. All right. Now the question is, sir, how is this petroleum formed? I understood about coal. You said that large amount of forest, the plants, the swamps, they were buried under the earth crust after millions of years later, right? What happened was, because of heat and because of pressure, it decayed slowly and steadily, transformed into coal. What is the case with petroleum? How did petroleum form? See, petroleum, it is basically because of the dead animals. Petroleum is formed because of organisms living in the sea. Please remember this, living in the sea. Now what happens? Petroleum as well as natural gas. Please remember, petroleum as well as natural gas. We'll talk about natural gas as well. Natural gas is also called as the compressed CNG that we use, CNG in your vehicles, etc. Predominantly it's methane, right? We are using extensively in many of the areas. Both petroleum and natural gas, they are formed when oceanic organism, that means the marine plants and marine animals, when they die, they go to the ocean floor. They are slowly and steadily buried deep, and once they are buried over millions of years, what happens is, there are plants, animal remains, there is sand, there is silt, there is clay. So this pressure and this heat continuously transforms, and oil and petroleum is then seen in these stones. These are basically the sedimentary rocks in which we get petroleum and natural gas. So very similar kind of process, but the on land basically we get coal, and offshore basically because of the marine plants and marine animals which are covered by sand, silt, and because of again continuous pressure, these sedimentary rocks are formed, and in these we get oil and gas deposit, both petroleum and natural gas. Now from petroleum, please try to understand petroleum which is found in these rocks. What do? We drill in that rock and we extract the oil. You must have seen this. What happens is, the petroleum or the crude oil wells, they go deep inside. There is a rock. If there is a reservoir rock, we make a hole in this, and then we extract the crude oil or petroleum. Now when petroleum or crude oil comes, there are many other products that we use. Of course, in our day-to-day life, we use petrol, we use diesel, we use kerosene, right? Petrol in petrol engine, diesel in diesel engine. Kerosene was used predominantly as a fuel earlier. Now I think the use of kerosene has also gone down a lot. But these products are obtained how? Petroleum, which is basically a dark oily liquid, again a very unpleasant smelling oil, it is refined in a petroleum refinery. It is basically made to undergo a process of fractional distillation. At different temperatures, different products can be extracted out of it, right? See, from the residue we take out LPG, we make gasoline, we also get jet fuel, we get diesel, we get motor gasoline, we get industrial fuel. At the end we also get asphalt base, and some end product or residue products can also be extracted out from this refinery. So it is made to undergo fractional distillation at different temperatures. Through different processes we create gas, petrol, diesel, lubricating oil, paraffin wax, etc. And in separate rocks we also extract natural gas. It can be as petroleum, crude oil, and normally what happens is wherever we explore for crude oil, we also get natural gas. That's why you must have seen there are some countries which are the net exporters of crude oil and gas, Russia being one of the examples. We are buying a lot of oil from Russia, and Russia is also one of the important gas exporting country. So natural gas we extract the same from these petra, that means stone. That from these stones we extract the natural gas. We compress that natural gas because I want to compress that so that the area for its storage is reduced, and then we transport it through pipelines, etc., to the other places. So CNG is also very important fuel for us. Again, all these are exhaustible, non-renewable. Please remember this. Apart from this, natural gas, it is also used as a starting material for many chemicals and fertilizers. That's why we have laid so many gas pipelines in India also, right? Hazira to Jagdishpur. From Hazira, near Gujarat, we have laid a pipeline till Jagdishpur in UP Uttar Pradesh, where we have so many chemical and fertilizer factories, because natural gas is a very important element or a component for making many fertilizers and chemicals. Predominantly these industries or natural gas is found in India in the KG basin, in the Krishna Godavari delta, near Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Tripura. There are some centers of natural gas from where we have extracted these. So these are three important sources of exhaustible energy that we use. And whenever I talk about exhaustible, you need to remember one more thing. When we talk about limited resources, there has to be sustainability. That is why we are calling for a mixture or diversification of India's needs, energy needs. India is right now energy insecure, meaning we need higher energy consumption. India's per capita energy consumption is still very low compared to the developed countries. We know that. But we rely heavily on coal, and coal leads to pollution also. That's why we talk about sustainability. That is why the government is talking extensively about what? About solar energy, about wind energy, about geothermal energy, because these are all sources of renewable energy or non-exhaustible energy. There must be a doubt in your mind also. The doubt is, sir, we do a lot of experiments, right? We already know how coal was formed. We already know how petroleum is formed, how natural gas is formed. Can't I just reverse engineer and use same dead plants, same marine dead plants and animals for creating that in the lab? Is it possible? Can coal, petroleum, natural gas be prepared in laboratory from dead organisms? The answer would be no. First of all, the process is extremely slow and it cannot be replicated in a laboratory. If we could do it, then it would be extraordinary, right? So it's not possible. It takes millions of years for these dead decaying animals through these natural processes, right? After millions of years of heat and pressure, they transform into coal, carbonization takes place, and then they transform into petroleum and natural gas respectively. So replicating that in laboratory is not possible. It means what? Whatever resources that we have, we need to use them judiciously. And that is why they say, try to save fuel, try to shift to your renewable sources of energy, try to go for solar energy, try to go for wind energy. In fact, whenever you are riding a vehicle, make sure if you're at a signal, then switch off the ignition, then again switch on. That is why there are many advices which are given by Petroleum Conservation Research Association. They do say that continuously keep your engine updated, service your vehicle. Whenever you are in a signal, switch off the ignition so that you switch it on again, and the petrol or the fuel is not wasted, because all these sources are limited. and the rate at which we are burning, they are going to get exhausted very, very soon. That is why everybody is talking about electric vehicles these days. Now someone might ask a question, sir, for electric vehicle I need electricity, and that electricity is again produced from coal. We are slowly and steadily shifting from there also. So exhaustible natural resources, they have to be used very judiciously to ensure that there is some sort of intergenerational parity. That is the message from this lecture also, right? So that's the end of today's discussion, where we spoke about natural resources, especially exhaustible natural resources or non-renewable natural resources. Right, till we meet next time, stay safe and stick to the schedule. And remember, if you have liked this video, then you can always follow me on this particular ID at the rate Rahul Sai 22. Thank you for watching this video. Jai Hind.